Okay, hi everyone. Now I'm going to give you a jumpstart tutorial. First of all, thanks to Bruno and Johannes for giving us an insight into the world of PDF and iText and e-invoicing. So in this tutorial, we'll be getting a little more technical and we'll be exploring how you can create and manipulate PDFs and what you can do with your PDFs using iText. So these are the concepts that we'll be exploring here. Can I have a raise of hand to know how many of you have experience with programming languages, high-level languages, any programming language? Okay. So let's just look at a simple PDF first. So as you can see on the screen, this is a basic PDF which has just two words, hello and world. This is what the human eye reads it as. So let's look at it in a notepad. So the same PDF which was just two words this is how it is represented at the back end. So it's some 40 lines of PDF instructions, and I'm sure the people who do not know about the PDF syntax, this is not very readable, and human eye cannot make sense of this without knowing what the PDF syntax really is. So you see, you can achieve the same thing using just 5 lines of code, and these 5 lines of code are very intuitive and easy to use. You get a writer, you get a PDF document, then you get a document, and then you add a new paragraph, you add some text to the paragraph, and you close the document. Just 5 lines of code for all those 40 lines of PDF syntactical instructions. So what really is happening here, if you see, this emulates a real-world document, that you would open a document, you would add a paragraph, you would add text, and then you would close the document. So you see how iText has masked a layer of complexity. You do not need to know the underlying instructions, and you can actively use a programming language like Java or .NET, and it's quite easy to use and quite easy to learn. So I'll give you a quick and short introduction into PDF structure, the syntax and structure. So PDF is a binary format with its own syntax. It has some 8 different types of objects listed here. And if you want to know more, there is PDF specification document, which is probably more than 700 pages of document. But the important thing to note here is that iText implements everything that the specification says a PDF can do. If we look at the PDF structure, it has 4 sections: a header, a body, an xref, that's a cross-reference table, and a trailer. So iText also has a tool called RUPS. This is used to inspect PDF files, and the same set of instructions that we just saw for the Hello World PDF can be seen as a structured tree, and it's easier to understand, easier to examine your PDFs using this. So the next slide gives an overview of the iText 7 modules. We have different modules. All the modules that you see in purple color are a part of the core engine, which provide the core functionality. So the ones in green are optional modules, and the ones in purple are our add-ons. We'll be talking about the add-ons throughout the day. So if I come back to the core engine, which is in blue, the I/O and the kernel modules give you the low-level functionality. The layout gives you the high-level functionality. We'll come back to that, what is high-level and low-level when it comes to creating PDFs with iText. Then for implementation of barcodes, the support is from the barcodes module. PDF A for archival. RUPS, I just explained the tool. And for forms and signatures, if you have to create a form and digital signatures, for that, the modules are listed there. So talking about the basic building blocks, we have a twofold approach to create and manipulate PDFs, the high-level approach, the low-level approach, and then you can mix up these two to create more complex PDFs. So first, we look at what the high-level approach does. So at the high level approach, there's a concept of a document. It emulates a real world document. You will have the concept of a paragraph, a table, the cells of a table, text that you add to a paragraph or a page. So at this level, you do not need to know the PDF syntax, and you can actually work with the classes out of the box that iText provides. So it hides the complexity of the PDF syntax. What you can do with the high-level APIs, we'll look at some of the code snippets also. You can set a font. The default font that iText gives is Helvetica, but there are 14 different types of fonts that PDF specs allows. These are the English fonts. We can also write in any language. We can write content in Thai also. We'll come back and show you some examples of that. So there are some 14 fonts which are recognized by the PDF viewers. We'll look at how we can add a paragraph. So first is how you add a font. So I'm adding a Times Roman font, then adding a paragraph. It's as simple as creating a new object of paragraph class. Then you add some text to it, and then you set the font, and then you add that paragraph to the document. You can also have a control over the font properties. You can set the font size. You can make your font italic or bold. You can set the font color. So there is again a small code snippet which shows how you can add, how you can control the size of the font, the color. You can set the text as italic, bold, etc. So you can also add lists. So when you add a list, you can set the list symbol. Like the example that I'm showing here has a bulleted list. I will also open a PDF that I have generated using this code to give you a better idea. Yeah, okay, so coming back to adding lists, if you see, I have set the symbol intent, the size, 12 user units. We'll look at a live example also. So I am giving the encoding to create a bulleted list here. Then I'm setting a specific font. I can add different items. And then I add this list to the document and close the document, just like how you would add a list to a real-world document. So you can add images. The class that we make use of is the image data factory. This will detect the type of image that you pass to it. It could be a JPEG, it could be a GIF, it could be a BMP image, and iText classes will process that image and make them ready to be used in a PDF. So this is the code for adding images. You define your new image. This is the path. Path is where your image is placed. You add some text. After the text, you want your image to appear. Then you add some more text, and then you want your next image to appear. And then you add the whole paragraph to the document. So let's just look at the PDF that has been generated using this. So if you look at it, the first one has a different font size. This is the list that I generated, and the bulleted points, some text that I added, and the images that were added. So using high-level APIs, you can also add a table. And you can, when you add a table, you can define the number of columns in this float array. The size of your array will give you the number of columns, and the digit value of the column would give you the width. For example, the first column is 4 times the width of the second column. You can set the width percentage as depicted in the second line. So there is an interesting thing that I would like to discuss is the addition of header cells. So if you add a cell to the table as a header cell, iText will automatically repeat that header when your data goes on to the second page. So all these kind of functionalities which are quite intuitive are already inbuilt into iText. So this is one of the example of the header cell that I was talking. So when your data flows off from first page to the second, the header cell is repeated. So some of the other high-level methods are allow you to rotate a page. You can set a page size from international page sizes like A0 to A10, B0 to B10, letter, legal, executive, ledger. You can set the page margins. You can set text alignment, and you can set hyphenation. And it is easy and quite intuitive. You just call methods by the same name: set margin, set text alignment, set hyphenation. So now we jump on to the low level. So low level does not have the concept of a document, a real world document. There is no concept of a document. It is based on coordinate system. So you actually tell your library, or you tell your application that these are the absolute positions, X and Y dimensions you pass to the application where your text will be drawn, or your curves, ellipses, anything. So at the low level, it writes to the PDF content stream, and PDF operators are mapped to methods. For example, instructions of PDF syntax like M, L, S are mapped to methods like move to, line to, and stroke. So it is easy to remember what every function does. So it allows for the manipulation of the layout. So like I said, the use of Canvas has no concept of a page. There are absolute positions, and you get access to content streams. So there's another concept that we'll be discussing here, which is graphic state, which allows for manipulation of your coordinate system. So you can transform and translate your coordinate system. You can control the line width, stroke color, fill color. Let's look at one of the examples. So here we've drawn an X and Y. Basically what happens in a canvas, your 0, 0 is located at the bottom left. Here is your X and Y 0 for a page. But using the canvas, I have moved it to the center and then drawn 2 lines. You can add more complexity to this. You can draw grid lines. You can draw curves, you can draw ellipses, etc. So the next thing is text state. It is a subset of the graphic states. It has properties related to text, and you can add text at absolute positions. What does this mean? We'll just look at one of the examples to understand this better. So this is one of the examples which explains the use of low-level API when we are adding text. So if we add text to a document using high-level API, because the high-level API has a concept of a document, every time your line or the content of your first line is exceeding the width of the page, it will jump to the next line. So iText will automatically add a line break. And when the height of the page is filled, it will add a page break. But let's say you want something written like this, where you are not spanning the entire width of the page. You want your text to be placed in different chunks. So this kind of thing can be done with the low-level API. I'll show you another example of how you can use the low-level API. But the use of low-level API requires that you have some knowledge of PDF syntax and structure to be able to use it effectively. This is a small code snippet which depicts how you can use the canvas to add text at certain positions. There is also a concept of transformation matrix, which allows you to draw objects in a new coordinate system. So using the concat matrix method, you can scale, rotate, or skew your coordinate system. So moving forward to a combination of both approaches. So the combination of both approaches allows the programmer to perform more complex operation. It gives you a more fine-grained control over creation and manipulation of your PDFs. So we'll explore some concepts related to this. So the first concept that I discuss here is the concept of a renderer. We have document renderers, column renderers, table renderers, cell renderers. What these renderers do is they give you control over every element individually. So we'll look at a few examples. So if you look at this PDF, we have the text and the images distributed in 3 different columns. All the 3 columns are well organized and coherent. This can be done using a column renderer. So it lets you control the properties individually for each column. Similarly, there are block renderers at the level of cell, div, line, list, and table. Also, you can write your custom renderers where you write your own logic to control the properties. I will also show you some simple examples, but you can add complexity to your own logic based on your use case. So if you look at this, this is a column render. This is an example of a column renderer where I have manipulated the color property for the columns of this table. So all the columns are blue except for the one drawn and lost. I have manipulated the color property and added specific colors to each of them. So this is an example how you can get control of individual cells of a table. This is done using cell renderer. Again, my logic here is only of changing color, but you can add more complex logic. So talking about event handlers, first of all, there are 4 types of events that you can trigger for a PDF. That is start page for the start of a new page, end page, as the name states, when the page has ended or a new page has started, insert page and remove page. This is done through an event handler interface where there's a handle event method. You can write your own logic as well in this. So let's look at a few examples to understand this better. If you look at this sample PDF, my table of contents does not have any image, but my other pages have an image background, or let's say an image watermark. So this kind of functionality can be achieved, or you can control how your different pages are displayed using event handlers. So one more example, if you look at this PDF, so in this, I will go into the code also to explain what I have done here. So what I have done here is my logic looks at my odd numbered pages and even numbered pages. If they are odd numbered pages, I am controlling the color property and I'm making it green. And if it's an even numbered page, I'm making it blue. So recently we also had a customer who had a 10-page document, and he wanted the first 3 documents to have a certain margin. And from the 4th page onwards, he wanted to change the margins and also rotate the page. So that is also possible using event handlers. Okay, so moving on to the next thing, annotations. I am sure most of you have heard about the markup or have seen or used the markup annotation, where you highlight a part of your document in your PDF. So there are actually 28 different kinds of annotations, and 2 out of these are going to be deprecated in PDF 2. iText implements all the 26 type of other annotations. So these annotations, what do they basically do? They allow for user interaction. They are not a part of the content stream. So this is not something that you will find in a content stream. It is added on top of the existing content. So if we look at the code, there's a ready-to-use PDF annotation class. You declare, you create a new object of it, you define the rectangle, you set the color, you set the title, and then you can set the contents. Then you can just add the annotation. So the next thing that we are going to discuss is Acro Forms. Let me first show you what an Acro Form looks like. So this is basically an Acro Form, and it has different fields, and these fields are, I can edit them, I can enter data into them. So this is how a PDF Acro Form looks like. Let's go back to the slides to explore what it does. So these are basically interactive forms. You can add text fields, lists, checkboxes, radio buttons, push buttons, signature fields. So the first thing that comes to the mind when you look at such a form is it's quite similar to an HTML form. But HTML form fields are resizable. You can update the list contents on the fly, whereas in case of an Acro form, the fields have fixed place and fixed size. It is more comparable to a paper form. So if your use case is basically online data collection, it is not very wieldy for those use cases. But let's think of a voucher that is a voucher, or let's say an entry ticket to an event where most of the data is fixed, the design is fixed, and you are just adding in user information, as in your name and your seat number or row number and the time and date of the event, and then printing it out. So it's very convenient for those kind of use cases. Yeah, so it is typically used when the form is equivalent of a digital paper or form is used as a template. So the steps in this are form creation. First of all, it's mostly created manually using one of the GUI-based softwares, but it can also be done using iText. So if you have to create an Acro form, this is the code that would be needed. An important thing to note here is that the fields that we saw in the form are added as widget annotations, which are not a part of the content stream. So if you have to fill an existing form, you can simply get the form fields and get individual field, and then you can set its value. So flattening of forms, that's the next concept. What is flattening of forms? When you flatten the form with the information that you have filled into those fields. Let me show you a flattened form. So this is a flattened form. If you try to click and change the data, you can't do it. You cannot reset it, you cannot add any more information into this. So basically what flattening does is it takes out the interactivity of the form. The user cannot change any information anymore. So the widget annotations, the fields, like I said, are widget annotations. So the data entered into them is replaced and it is flattened into the form. You can also, iText also provides for partial flattening. That is, if you want a few fields to be flattened and you want a few fields to be still interactive, that can also be done using iText. Again, let's look at the code that allows us to do that. You get your form and then you just call flatten fields method on it, which will flatten all your fields. So this was about the low-level, high-level approach and a mixture of both. And this was mainly how we are creating templates or creating PDFs. Now let's look at what you can do with existing PDFs. So you can add watermarks using iText easily to your PDFs. These could be text watermarks or image watermarks. iText will also allow you easily to adjust the angle of your watermark. You might want to put it at, horizontally or vertically or at an angle of 45 degrees. It allows you to control the opacity of the watermark. You might want a thick black color, or you might want to gray it out. You might want to have the opacity. I will show you an example also. You can control the font and the font size. And you can also select the pages that you want to mark. Let's say you just want to mark the first page with the watermark and want the rest of your document not to be watermarked. So that is also possible. So this is an example of the watermark that I created using a color. I wanted it to be blue. So this is a blue colored watermark. And I set the opacity as 0.2. You can set it anywhere between 0 to 1. And I wanted it to be at an angle of 45 degrees. So you can also add header and footer to your documents. So let's look at the code a little bit more. What you would do to add a header and a footer. So you would read an existing PDF using these two lines of code where you're passing the reader and the writer. Then you create a new document. You get the number of pages and loop over each page. And then you get hold of the canvas object, and then you add a header. Similarly, you can add a footer and set the color. You can add page numbers. The next thing that I'm going to discuss is merging of PDFs. So you can merge the content of two PDFs, and this is done using the PDF merger class. You can also do partial merging. When I say partial merging, I mean that you want to merge only the first page from first document, and you want to merge pages 3 to 5 from second document. So this kind of merging is also possible using iText, and the methods that we use are merge. The first one, the list of pages. This is what you can use for partial merging. And when you want end-to-end all the pages to be merged, then you use the second method. So again, a small snippet to show you how you can merge pages. In this example, I am merging all the pages from the first PDF, all the pages from the second PDF, number 1 to the last number of pages. Then I close all 3 PDFs. So you can also merge forms, but the challenge with merging forms is that the field name should be unique. So if there are duplicate form fields, these need to be renamed, because unlike HTML, PDF can have only one form. So you can merge flattened forms also using smart mode or normal mode. So in the normal mode, when you're merging two flattened forms, what will happen is that iText libraries will treat both the documents separately, and it will add all the resources from both the documents into the new document. Whereas when you use the smart mode, PDF classes compare the two documents, and the common resources are added only once. So when you use the smart mode, you get a smaller size PDF. And if you use a normal mode, you will have a bigger size PDF. So the next topic is viewer preferences. So viewer preferences allow you to set the default behavior for PDF document. When I say default behavior for PDF document, that means whenever you open your PDF with any PDF viewer software and you set the page mode and page layout, it's going to be opened in that same format. I'll first jump into one example to tell you what it does. If you look at this PDF, we have opened the side panel and we can see page thumbnails. So you can set this and the viewer will be opened like this. You can also set it to full screen mode, that when you open your PDF, it will always be opened in a full screen mode. And if you look at the page layout, I am seeing 2 columns of pages, and the odd number pages are on the extreme right, and the other ones are here. Going back to the slide. So yeah, you can set your page mode and you can set your page layout, and these are the different settings that can be used. Preferences class. These are some other viewer related preferences that can be set. You can also set preferences for the printer, the number of copies, the scaling that you want with the printer, and the print area. Again, I would like to focus that the method names are quite intuitive and easy to remember. Set page layout will set your page layout. Set page mode would set your page mode. Going to the next topic, metadata. So metadata is basically data about your document, or let's say the document properties. So this is stored in the info dictionary of PDF. Info dictionary is again a syntax from the PDF. I will show you where you can find the metadata in your PDF. So if you press Control D on any of your opened PDFs, you will see this screen pop up, which is document properties. It gives you the data about the properties or the data about your PDF, like the name, the title, the keywords, when it was created, when it was modified, then the producer line, the version, the location, etc. So this is basically a set of key value pairs in terms of PDF syntax, and you can add this to your document using the PDF document info class of iText. You can set title, author, producer, creation date using the code below. So info dictionary, because metadata is stored as an info dictionary is being deprecated in PDF 2, and Xmp metadata is a norm that is going to come. So metadata stored as XML inside a PDF is Xmp metadata. It allows for more flexibility. This can also be done using iText. You use the writer properties class to add the XML. The writer properties class can also be used to set compression modes. You can set it on full compression mode, or you can choose compression levels from 0 to 9. You can also set documents on the set passwords on the document using this class. If you look at this line, we are using this code to set passwords on the document. 2 passwords, a user password and an owner password. You can also set the PDF version for your document using this class. Okay, so this is the example of how Xmp metadata looks like. So due to shortage of time, these are the only things that I have discussed regarding the basics and the Jumpstart tutorial, but there's much more to explore on our website. There are very interesting concepts of actions and destinations, how you can create bookmarks, how you can scale or tile your PDF pages, and concepts like n-upping. I would request all of you to go and explore on developers.itexpdf.com. It has abundance of examples, coding examples, and you can explore this and